Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, we had the trade deadline and simulated the rest of the season. We decided not to really make any moves just because I think our team has simulated pretty good enough, and it actually worked out quite well. As you can see, our team finished 5th in goals for, 2nd in goals against, 4th on the power play and on the penalty kill. We didn't have anybody that was over point per game, which is interesting. So basically, by that logic, means we had really good depth scoring. So I'm hoping that obviously the depth still shows up in the postseason, because obviously that could be a big problem if it doesn't. But a lot of good players in terms of point production, both on the offensive core and on the defensive core, because you can see from the forward perspective, it was mostly Crane doing the work, but you do have a bunch of guys on 60 points, 50 points, and some even on like 40 and 30 points. So good depth scoring across the board there. A lot of guys on 10 plus goals. Like if we sort on our forward group, you can see pretty much everybody that was on our forward group actually scored more than 13 goals this season. The only one that didn't was Neil Terry, who is more of a bottom six defensive player. So in general, pretty impressed with the forwards. And then if we go to the defensive core, you can see we had 3 defensemen on 50 plus points, so very impressed with that. Carlton and Savage also did relatively good, so really liking the offense from the back end, so to speak. And then from a goaltending perspective, we had some solid numbers from Nicholas. They did drop off a bit as the episode went on in last one, but he still posted in 912. Solovyov posted in 912, so both goaltenders relatively consistent with how they play, so hoping that obviously continues into this year's postseason and we don't get cheesed in the first round of playoffs, because that would be absolutely unfortunate, because we are in 2045. We probably only have 3 more seasons, I think, left of this after this year, so we need to find a way to win a Stanley Cup this year and at least say that we could have 1 cup before all these guys start retiring and we start to wrap up this series. But anyways, before we get into this first round matchup with the Carolina Hurricanes, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll look at the Carolina Hurricanes roster again, just in case you forgot, and then we'll get into this first round matchup. So the first comment is from Dylan Burrows, who says, the only thing that matters in the last few seasons is the Stanley Cup. Nothing else matters. And yeah, nothing else does matter, according to Metallica too. But yeah, I think we definitely need to find a way to win a Stanley Cup here, because it would be very disappointing, in my opinion, if guys like Crane and Houghton don't find a way to win a Stanley Cup, Mäkinen as well. Obviously, if we do find a win a Stanley Cup after these guys retire, because they could retire before this franchise mode ends, it's not a huge issue, but still, like, we've had such a good team. Like, we built up a lot of good prospects over the early years and stuff like that. We had some runs. We've been to, I think 4 Stanley Cup finals, and we have not won yet. So it's we're definitely due for a Stanley Cup. If we can't find a way to win one in this series, it's definitely some sort of a curse that must have carried over from the Lou Lamoriello days. So hopefully we can find a way to get it done this year. If not, obviously there's more changes that we're going to need to make in the offseason to try and get our team that Stanley Cup win. The next comment is from Michael Dose, who says, I was wrong on Scrivens. Can't be right all the time, though. Team looks great. Hopefully not too good to lose in the playoffs, as EA screws us. And yeah, hopefully our team isn't too good enough that we don't have a good playoff run. And you being wrong on Scrivens. I mean, Scrivens was an interesting one. He could have went either way when we picked him up via trade. I was thinking he would be a good goal scorer and a good producer on this team, just because if we go back to his stats, I was thinking maybe based on his attributes, he'd be a good goal scorer. He doesn't have the highest offensive awareness, so I wasn't expecting, hey, he's going to be like a 90-point guy. I'd expected him to at least be able to score some goals, and he came into us and he scored 30 goals, which is a career high for him. So I am impressed with him. I think it was obviously kind of a decision, like I said, that could have went either way. He could have been like a player that picked up these type of numbers like he did in Calgary, or he could have been a player that picked up numbers like he did in his only year in the Dallas organization. So hopefully he has a good playoffs ahead as well, because obviously he hasn't had good playoffs in his career so far. And lastly, Michael says, thoughts on the NHL maybe going to an 84-game schedule? And yeah, that's kind of an interesting question. I think it's actually going to be an interesting thing now. There's a bit of a double-edged sword with adding a couple more games to the regular season, in my opinion. So I think it's a good thing, though, because obviously you get one more home game, one more road game during the season, which is kind of nice. So it's a little bit longer in that sense. But I think the one thing that I'm a little bit worried about them adding more games is coming to playoff hockey, because By playoff hockey, a lot of players are already run down and stuff like that. By the end of the playoffs, players are even run down, and then they don't have a lot of an off season to recover. I feel like adding 2 more games, I don't know if it's going to drastically make players get more injured and stuff like that, but it's obviously going to make players feel a little bit more fatigued near the end of the season. Then again, some teams rest good players near the end of the season already, so maybe it's not a huge issue, but obviously with 84 games, I definitely think it is a good thing, and also it could be also a little bit of a bad thing for more players getting tired before the end of the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, it's definitely going to be a more of a fight to win that Stanley Cup playing 2 extra games, because those 2 extra games could be the difference between making the playoffs and missing the playoffs, which is also kind of nuts. So yeah, that's basically my opinion on that matter. I don't know if it's been confirmed that the NHL is going to be going to that, but if it does go to that, it would be pretty interesting, I think. All right, with that said, let's go to Carolina's roster and show you guys what Carolina's looking like again, just in case you forgot. Then we'll also take a look how we did against them during the regular season, because it looks like we played them on the last game of the season, which is kind of funny. So we'll definitely take a look at that. But they do have some former players on this team, but they also have some very solid players, too, to build around those former players of ours. You can see Eriksson, Arkhipov, and Yashin. I'd say that's a pretty solid top line for a team that just barely made it into the postseason. Their second line's also pretty decent. Miroshnichenko, who used to play with us, has been getting better actually in Carolina too. 54 points in back-to-back seasons. So yeah, he's been pretty solid for them at this point. Their third line is pretty decent with Sopel. Pilstrom and Huxley might be a bit weak, but their fourth line is somewhat okay with some of the young guys coming into their lineup. Now, one thing that we did notice also in last episode is they do have 3 franchise players. Lance Smits was drafted first overall just last year, so Carolina's just making it back into the playoff mix. Arkhipov was a franchise guy in his peak. He is still technically a franchise player at a 94 overall. And then this Ulf Eriksson guy, he was probably an elite player because he was drafted second overall, but he's probably produced such good numbers that his potential jumped up to medium franchise. I think he's still an elite player more so, but technically they have 3 franchise players on that offensive core, which is pretty insane. Defensively, though, you can see they do have some former players, including Yuri Novoseltsev and Walker Osgood. Novoseltsev was in Chicago for a long time. Osgood played in Philadelphia a little bit. He's been in Carolina for a little bit, too. And they also do have Timo Salo, who was the guy that we drafted 6th overall and immediately traded him away before he played, just so we could get Mäkinen onto our roster back in the day. So they do have a bit of Islander ties to them. And you can see they have a good goaltending combo with Beta and Budin. So should be an interesting matchup. Hopefully we can find a way to win, because if we get cheesed in the first round, it's gonna suck kind of a bit, because our team's made it really far the last number of years. Like, I think the last 8 years or so. We've had like 5 conference finals appearances. Actually, maybe not even 8 years. Let's go back to our lineup again and look at our stats here. If we look at Crane, because Crane's been through all the heartbreak on this team, like, that's why I say he deserves a Stanley Cup right now. You can see since 2036, so basically the last 9 seasons, or not last 9 years, last 10 seasons, probably something like that, we've lost in the Cup final, we lost in the first round, and afterwards, conference finals exit, conference finals, conference finals, conference finals, conference finals. Then we lose in the Cup finals the last 2 years, so basically, in the last decade or so of hockey, we've lost 3 times in the Cup Finals, we've lost 5 times in the Conference Finals, and once in the first round. So this team needs to make it back to the Cup Finals again this year, and hopefully this is the year that we actually find a way to win in that Stanley Cup Finals, because if we don't, it's just disappointing regardless of what happens. So how did we do against Carolina during the regular season? I do see that we played them in the last game of the season and beat them 5-2, which is good, but obviously that doesn't really matter at all when it comes to playoff hockey, but I'm kind of curious on the other meetings. So early in the season, we did lose to them in the first game of the season, 6-5 in a shootout, so that's kind of interesting. So we got off to a bad start against them that early on, but that was still good offensive production, not good goaltending, I guess, in that one. The second game we played against them, where is that second game? Just making sure I do not pass over it. Oh, it was a 5-1 loss. So we actually lost the first game in a shootout, second game in regulation 5-1. So our first 2 games against the Canes were pretty bad. But then after the trade deadline, our last meeting against them, which was the last game of the season, we won 5-2. So basically against them, we were 1-1-1. We scored 5 goals in 2 of those 3 games, but we lost 2 of those 3 games basically total. So this could be a pretty even matchup based on that, but obviously regular season doesn't usually make a huge impact on the playoffs. First and foremost, before we get to game one, let's just make sure we have our lines set up the way we want to. I think they're pretty good the way we have them set up. It's usually always going to be this type of top line. We could always move Ragnarsson to the top line or Scrivens if Lehman's underproducing, but we'll keep him there for now. And I think the rest of this should be fine. I'm interested to see how young guys like Trotter and Terry do in the lineup this year, in this postseason. Hopefully they can make an impact. And then our defensive core, we could always move Houghton down to the second pairing if he continues to drop off, but it depends on, I guess, how Holmstrom's doing on the team still. And then, Nicholas will obviously be getting the starts. There is a chance Solovyov could get some playoff games this year, but Nicholas will get the start for now. Obviously, last year, Nicholas was really good up into the Stanley Cup Finals, so maybe he has a bit of a redemption arc in him. But with that said, let's get to this first game of the first round and see if we could find a way to get ourselves to that second round and beyond that as well, because we need to find a way to win a Stanley Cup. If I literally go a full series without winning a Stanley Cup, I don't even know. Like, that would just be the first time that's ever happened on my channel, probably since like NHL 17. I think with my old Islanders franchise mode, I won one Stanley Cup, but I didn't go all 25 years. But this is just, I don't know why it's changed this year. Like, I've had a lot more of a tougher time winning the Stanley Cup with this team than any other team I've ever had before. So, anyways, let's get to game number one. We have home ice advantage for probably a good chunk of the playoffs because weren't we the best team in the Eastern Conference? I think we were, if I remember right. But anyways, let's see what happens. See if we can get off to a good start on home ice here. First period, game number one. 1-1, I mean, I'll take it. It's not great that they scored a goal in the first period, but Schaefer opens the scoring for us. So good to see the defensive core starting to score some goals again. Like I said, I was really impressed with the defensive core. 3 guys on 50-plus points, 4 guys on 30-plus points. So we definitely do get a lot of offense from the back end. And then Payer ties it up. Shots are 11-10 in favor of Carolina. It's a 1-1 game after one, so pretty even period. Can we find a way to get that lead back in the second period? 2-1 Carolina. Ew, I do not like that. So far, Nicholas has been solid, though. It's not really on him that we're losing. Tanaka scores. Shots are 24-21 in favor of us, so their goaltender's off to a good start, which is kind of scary. Their defensive core is playing good. Our defensive core has been playing good, and our goaltending has. It's just our offense right now isn't really showing up, which is not ideal. We've had that problem in the past, though, where we've been a bit inconsistent offensively when it comes to the playoffs, so hopefully we can find a way to have a good third period and tie this game up at least. Let's see what happens. Third period underway. Come on, boys. Let's tie this one up. Let's tie it up. Oh my goodness. Come on, boys. Please find a way to score another goal. We don't want to only just be scoring 1 goals in these games. We got to score more than 1. And Mishchenko, our former player, scores. Ragnarsson immediately gets us back within 1. But is Mishchenko's goal going to be the difference in game 1? No, it's not. Dempsey ties it up. So it was 3-1 briefly, but we do respond with 2 unanswered goals. We will be going to overtime in game 1. So that was a bit scary. At that point, I thought we were going to lose game 1 when Mishchenko scored, but the fact that Ragnarsson answered right back was huge, and then Dempsey picking up a goal is nice to see as well. Very even game up to this point. It's 3-3. Shots are literally 32-31. I don't know who's going to win this, but hopefully it's somebody on our side since we just came back from a 3-1 deficit. Who do I want to call on for the OT winner? Let's call on a random guy like Russell on the fourth line. Last year, Russell was fantastic in the playoffs, so let's call on him and see if he can maybe deliver us a first game victory. Let's see what happens. OT underway. Penalty kill to start off overtime. We kill it off. Nicely done, penalty killers. Always good to kill off penalties. Then Carolina still wins, though, as they get a goal shortly after. Bachman, oh my goodness. As Bachman scores the OT winner 5 minutes into the period. Unfortunately, we outshot them 36-35, but we lose by 1 goal. And that is definitely not the way I wanted to start off round 1. And that makes me feel like we could get cheesed unless our team finds itself more consistently going forward. But Schaefer from Houghton and Scrivens. Then we had Ragnarsson from Ashton and Scrivens. Dempsey from Kazanov and Houghton. And so Scrivens with a pair of assists in game 1 is nice to see. But I do need more goal scoring support from some of these guys. Like, there was definitely some bad plus minus as well. Dempsey had a goal, but he was -3 in that game. Savage was -2, Kazanov -1. So a couple lines got destroyed. At least Dempsey did. but that's not good. And then, yeah, Nicholas kind of basically still playing like he did last year in that Stanley Cup Finals. I honestly might give Solovyov game 2, just because maybe he could cheese them. But Scriven's the 3rd star, Mashenko 2nd star, Tanaka the 1st star. Yeah, I think I might give Solovyov game 2, to be honest. I know it's kind of a weird thing to do, and the fact that Nicholas almost got the victory, but yeah, Nicholas didn't have good results in that first game, and like I said, last year in the playoffs, in the Cup Finals, he was also not that good. I was a little bit questionable re-signing him because he wanted so much money and all that, and then he also got qualified, but I feel like we need to already make some adjustments, even though that was just game 1. Let's do some adjusting. Let's go with Scrivens on the top line. We'll move Lehman down to the 2nd line to play next to Ashton and Ragnarsson. We'll keep the other lines probably the same. Let me take a look at some stats here. Face-offs. We'll get Kazanov down the middle. Actually, that makes it a minus. I'm surprised that makes it a minus, though, when Kazanov technically has the best face-off stats, so I guess we will keep that like this. And then from a defensive standpoint, we'll probably keep the defensive core the same for now. And then goaltending, like I said, I think I'm going to take Nicholas out after game 1. And Solovyov will come back in. He has not played a playoff game since he last played with us. And last time he was in the playoffs, he was very good. So maybe he could be that underdog kind of goaltender that could actually win us some games if Nicholas isn't performing. So we'll go with that for game 2. And we'll see if that makes any adjustment. If it doesn't, obviously we'll go back to Nicholas. And maybe we'll go back with some more forward adjustments or defensive adjustments depending on how we play. Alright, so we've had a tough time against Carolina this season so far. I've only won 1 game against them technically through those 4 meetings now, because including that playoff game. But we have lost 2 in extra frames, so we could definitely still respond in this game. But I am kind of worried that our team is not going to do too well for the rest of the series potentially. But if we get out of this first round, maybe we could beat any other team in our path. So let's get to game 2 and see if we could respond with a nice victory here. We need to find a way to win this game, because obviously if we go down 0-2 headed to Carolina, we're going to need to find ways to win in Carolina multiple times. So with that said, let's get to game 2, see if our team could get off to a better start in this one. First period. 1-0 us. Okay, that's good to see. We do score first. It is Crane, the captain, on the power play. They don't score any goals in the first period like they did last game, so that's a good start defensively. Solid start offensively. Just got to find that consistency in the next 40 minutes as well. Shots are 9-7 in favor of us. It's a 1-0 game. Can we find a way to get some insurance going into the second period? 2-0 us. Nice to see that insurance marker. It's another top liner. It's Mäkinen. So love to see that our top line guys are starting to score goals in this game, because they didn't do too much in game 1. So I like that a lot. Shots are 20-17 in favor of us. It's a 2-0 game. Let's do a real-time simulation in the 3rd period and see if we could take this game. Carolina gets on the board. It's Arkhipov beating Solovyov. It's a 2-1 game. Power play for us. We do not score on it. That's unfortunate. Come on, boys. You got this. You got this. Final 8 minutes. Can we find a way to hold them off? Final 4 minutes. Come on, boys. Just give me an insurance marker, because I do not feel safe still. And we are going to hold them off. Nicely done, boys. 2-1 victory. Shots were dead even in that game. So far through 2 games, I think this has been a very even matchup, which it probably shouldn't be. But maybe that's good for us to kind of have an even matchup with a team that's not that good. And then maybe we go up against a good team and we all of a sudden play way better than that. I honestly don't know, but I'm just grasping for straws at this point. Trying to find reasons to say, hey, this team's going to win the Stanley Cup. But Crane from Houghton and Mäkinen. And then we had Mäkinen from Scrivens and Houghton. So a lot of the older guys doing work on this team. Scrivens now has 3 points in the first 2 games, so he's been our best player so far up to this point. Actually, Houghton has probably been up there too. Mäkinen with 2 points as well in that one. And then a goaltending performance, Solovyov is the guy. So Solovyov might honestly start game 3, because maybe Nicholas needs some time to think about how he's played the last little bit in the playoffs. So 3 stars in that one. Solovyov first star of the game, Mäkinen second star, Beta the 3rd star. But yeah, I think Solovyov will start game 3. I wasn't anticipating running Solovyov as our playoff goalie, but if he plays like this every single game, we're going to keep Solovyov in net until he basically starts to fall off pretty much. Because Solovyov was our guy for a long time. We didn't find a way to win a Stanley Cup with him, so we let him walk. And maybe we should have just held on to him all along. Maybe he could have helped us win some of these Stanley Cups, but he did not. All right, so goaltending. Actually, the first year that we let go of Solovyov is when we actually made it to the finals. So maybe Solovyov has a little bit of a bet that get us to the Stanley Cup Finals now that he's been away from the team for a few years. Like, he took a few years off, went to California, rested in the sun, something like that, came back, and now he thinks that he could get this team to a Cup Finals. So we'll see what he's able to do in a second straight game, but once again, the youngster Nicholas is going to take a backseat for Solovyov in this one, and we'll see if Solovyov can find a way to win us some games in Carolina. All right, so not a bad start to this Cup, or not Cup Finals, Stanley Cup playoffs. First game, we only lost because of an overtime goal, and we actually did came back from a 3-1 deficit, so that was almost a good game. Just the goaltending really didn't live up to expectation. Game 2 was fantastic defensively, not crazy offensively, so our offense, of course, still needs to provide a little bit more leeway, I feel like. But aside from that, I've really liked how we've played defensively, not so much in net for the first game. And that was much better for the second game. So a lot of inconsistencies right now, but hopefully we can find a way to be more consistent here now that we've won a game this postseason so far. So with that said, let's get to game number 3 on the road in Carolina. Can we find a way to win some games on the road as well this postseason and build off last game? Once again, Solovyov starts. First period, game 3. 1-0 us. Good start again for Solovyov. Is Cole Ashton? Carter Ashton? What is his name? No, it's not Carter Ashton. Carter Ashton is the former Leaf and Lightning guy. Cole Ashton opens up the scoring. I think it's Cole Ashton at least. It could be some other friggin' name that starts with a C. But anyways, shots are 11-8 in favor of us. Pretty similar to the last game. Good to see us having the lead after 20 minutes. Can we have a good second period as well like last game? Second period. 2-0 us. So far, Solovyov has been fantastic through 5 periods. Really liking the way he's came back to this team. He's definitely showing me that he wants to be that guy for us this year. And if he continues to play like this, Nicholas might not get another game for a bit. I mean, he is the higher overall goalie, so maybe he comes back in a second round if we get there. But, oh my goodness, I didn't mean the burp when I was talking. But if we get there, we'll see what ends up happening. So Winchester scores. That's good to see because Winchester is kind of like a low-end depth scorer, so it's good to see him on the board. Shots are still pretty even in this game, so I'd still say this series has been very even up to this point in time. It's just we've found a way to at least play better defensively and in net too. Can we find a way to lock this game down in the third period? Third period underway, and they immediately get a goal. To start the third, it's Huxley to make it a 2-1 game. That's not ideal, but we respond with a goal of our own. It's Mäkinen 3 minutes later, makes it a 3-1 game. And Mäkinen scores again 4 minutes later to make it 4-1. Let's go, Mäkinen. When Mäkinen catches fire, this entire team catches fire, so I'd like to see that. 2 goals for Mäkinen in his third, and we are going to take the first game in Carolina, and we have taken now a 2-1 series lead with a 4-1 victory. Back-to-back good games for Solovyov. The only goals he's given up have been in the third period, so I've been very impressed with how he's been playing for his age and his overall at this point in time. So Ashton from Lehman, Winchester from Russell and Terry, Mäkinen from Schaefer and Scrivens, and Mäkinen from Crane and Holmstrom. Not too bad. And then in terms of our stats, everybody's starting to pick up some points. We got some good plus-minus results. We got good goaltending. This is exactly what we need from this team. And I feel bad for Nicholas just sitting on the bench because maybe I didn't need to re-sign him. Maybe I just needed to bring back Solovyov, and that would be good. But at least we have a little bit of insurance having Nicholas as a backup goalie right now, I guess. But Mäkinen first star, Solovyov second star, Winchester the third star. Winchester's goal ended up being the game winner, so nice to see the fourth line with a game-winning goal, basically. All right, so back-to-back games, we've had some really good defensive results. Obviously, Game 1 wasn't in our favor too much defensively, so since making that goaltending adjustment, Solovyov has definitely shown me he needs to continue being that guy, so we'll keep him in for this game. If he plays bad, we could always go back to Nicholas, but we might honestly give Solovyov 2 chances, and if he plays 2 bad games in a row, obviously we go back to Nicholas, but Nicholas's stats, like I said, just haven't been there in the playoffs as of lately. Last year, he was actually pretty good technically for the most part, except for the Cup Finals. But then, you go to Solovyov, and I feel like he's been one of the most consistent playoff goalies I've had. You can see he's got a career .915 save percentage in the postseason. So, honestly, maybe he's exactly what we need to get back into our lineup. So, we'll throw him back in again. And aside from that, the rest of the team will stay the same. But if Solovyov carries his team to a Stanley Cup win, that would actually be a nice little storybook for us, because I wanted to win a Stanley Cup with Solovyov before, and then we weren't winning games, so that's why we made the adjustment of letting him go to free agency. And now he's coming back, and he's definitely shown this team that he could maybe be that type of goalie for us in the postseason. But obviously, I do expect him to eventually have some bad games, because he's not going to just allow one goal every single game in the postseason. There's just no way. But anyways, let's get to Game 4. We have taken a 2-1 series lead. Can we take a 3-1 series lead as we are still in Carolina? Let's build off these last two games and see if we could play good defensively in this one. First period. 2-0 us. So far, there has been no first period goals allowed by Solovyov in his 3 starts, which is insane. Trotter scores, I think, his first career playoff goal, so shout out to Trotter. And then Carlson scores a nice defensive goal. Shots are 12-9 in favor of us. It's a 2-0 game. Can we have another good second period like we've had the last 2 games? Second period? Yes, we can. 4-0 Islanders. Now we're finding our offensive game after the last one as well. Holmstrom makes it 3-0. Terry scores his first career playoff goal. And we have a 4-0 lead going into the third, but the shot's 23-15. This is definitely the most convincing game we've had yet. Last game was pretty convincing too, but we're definitely starting to find our offensive touch, and we're not allowing Carolina to get really anything, which is fantastic too. So far, like I said, Solovyov has not allowed a goal in the first 2 periods of each of his 3 starts, which means teams are going to have to come back from behind in the third period a lot if they want to beat him. So the fact that we have a 4-0 lead, I feel safe that Solovyov might be getting his 3rd straight win here to start off the playoffs. Anyways, let's see what happens in this third period, see if Solovyov can lock them down, and if we'll take that 3-1 series lead. Third period underway. Let's get her done, boys. Power play for us. We do not score, but it takes time off the clock, which is always good. Final 10 minutes of the third period, still up by 4 goals. We've all of a sudden really found our defensive game these last 3 games. It's been fantastic to watch. And we are going to be taking a 3-1 series lead as we've won our 2nd straight game in Carolina. We do not score a third period goal, but Solovyov picks up a shutout. He's only allowed 2 goals in 3 starts, which is absolutely fantastic. The team is really happy to have him back, I guess. But yeah, he might be our guy for the entire playoffs at this rate. Trotter from Dempsey. We have Carlton from Winchester and Holmstrom. Holmstrom from Trotter and Dempsey, and Terry from Holmstrom and Lehman. So a big game from Holmstrom, and a few other guys had multi-point games as well. You had Holmstrom with the 3 points and a +4. Dempsey 2 points +2. Trotter had 2 points +2. And then you had some other guys that were plus that were really good. And then the 24 save shutout from Solovyov. Solovyov's the man. He's always been my favorite goalie in the series, I think, that we've had so far. And he's definitely continuing to prove that. Anyways, he gets 3rd start of the game, Holmstrom 2nd start, and Trotter got 1st start of the game because despite only having 2 points compared to Holmstrom's 3, he had 5 hits. So Trotter was a little bit physical, which is nice to kind of see because he's a sniper, so I didn't expect that physicality, really. Alright, so yeah, we've only allowed 2 goals in our last 3 games. We've been playing fantastic defensively. We've also scored combined 8 goals in our last 2 games. Everything's been working well these last 2 games. It's good that we got off to a good, bad start, I guess, by losing Game 1, because our team has all of a sudden completely flipped that script. So we are obviously going to continue with Solovyov in this game, because he's just been absolutely locked in so far. And Nicholas, I know you're an 88 overall elite goalie by this standard, or starting goalie, I guess, technically by the standard. I'm sorry, man, you're going to take a back seat to Solovyov again. The good thing, at least with Nicholas, is if we wanted to in an offseason, we could eventually trade him away. He doesn't have a clause in his deal, so technically, if we want to, Nicholas could get traded away if he's not good after the season, something like that. But we could also keep on to him if we really want to as well. But he is a movable contract if we want to trade him at the draft or something. So anyways, there's that. Let's get to this next game. See if Solovyov could pull off another great game. If our defensive core can continue playing good. Let's see if we could find a way to take out the Canes in 5 games after they took Game 1. Let's see what happens. See if we can play that good defensive style again. Like I said, we've not been allowing goals in the first period too often. So, first period, Game 5. 1-1. Okay, so Carolina finally finds a way to score a goal in the first period on Solovyov. That was the first time in these 4 meetings, which is insane. Scrivens, though, opened the scoring early on for us. So it's a 1-1 game after 1. Shots are dead even. So we're back to those kind of close games, it seems like, in terms of chances and also goals so far. But obviously, it only takes 1 period for a team to run away with the game. So can we find a way to maybe get that lead back in the second period? Second period? 2 on us, nicely done. And that's only 1 goal going into the third. So Solovyov has been absolutely amazing. And if he only allows a 1 goal or so again in this third period, this guy's almost going to start probably the rest of the playoffs unless there's an injury or something almost at this point. So shots are 26-21 in favor of us going into the third. Ragnarsson with that power play goal. That's a big one from him. Can we find a way to lock down the Canes and take this series win in the third period? Let's see what happens. Third period underway. Come on, boys. Let's get that next goal. Let's get that next goal or play good defensively the rest of the way. Something like that. Oh, man, my voice keeps on trying to die. I mean, it's friggin' annoying as hell. Especially when I've not even been recording that long. Power play for the Carolina Hurricanes. We killed it off. Nicely done, guys. Final few minutes. Let's go. Dempsey scores a late goal, and we get an empty net goal with 5 seconds to go from Ragnarsson. 4-1 victory, which means that's the third straight game we've scored 4 goals in, and it's another game where Solovyov's only allowed 1 goal through 60 minutes. Final shots at the end of the game, 40-28, so it was a close first period, but afterwards it looks like we ran away with a shot advantage. What a series that was. Game 1, obviously, Nicholas didn't play good. We decided to put Solovyov in net, and he's been a huge difference maker for us, winning 4 straight games. So we had Scrivens from Crane and Mäkinen, Ragnarsson from Mäkinen and Houghton, Dempsey from Lindsay, and Ragnarsson from Lehman. 3 stars of the game in that one. Actually, let's go to stats here for a second. Couple guys on 2 points, Ragnarsson and Mäkinen. A lot of guys on 1 point. Good to see. And then Solovyov rocking his .964 save percentage. Absolutely insane first round from Solovyov. As Ragnarsson gets first star, Solovyov second star, Mäkinen the third star. So that was a textbook first round. Like I said, the first game, we only lost in overtime, so it wasn't a huge loss. But we decided to make some small adjustments, and those adjustments worked wonders. Only allowing 3 goals in our last 4 games, and we've scored 4 goals straight in these last 3 games, which is also impressive. So, and it was a 4-1 series win too, which is kind of funny considering all of the 4-1s and the 4-0s. Wow. All right. Well, that was an easier series than I thought it was going to be after game 1, but here we are. Let's take a look at some stats from round 1, and then we'll see who we're going up against in round number 2. But that was fantastic. It was quick, but it was fantastic. So in terms of player stats for our forwards, Mäkinen was over point per game with 6 points in 5 games. You had Scrivens, who was point per game, so I did say he's not that great in the playoffs. Well, that's more so when I guess he was a Calgary Flame, because you look at his playoff career numbers. He did play 14 games with the Flames a few years ago in the playoffs and only had 4 points, but he's been getting an elevated role with us, and he's been much better with us this postseason. Dempsey on 4 points is good to see, considering he's a little bit lower end in the bottom 6. Ragnarsson on 3 goals, nice to see. Crane 3 points. In general, the depth scoring is still showing up nicely. Like, we don't have anybody crazy in point production, but everybody on our team on the offensive core had a point in that first round. So it definitely is carrying over from the regular season, which is good to see. And then from a defensive standpoint, Houghton was point per game with 5 assists in 5 games. You had Holmstrom on 4 points, Schaefer on 2, but a +5. Carlson a goal, but +4. Lindsay had an assist, but +1, and Savage had nothing. So Savage was the only one on our entire team without a point, which is really impressive through 5 games. And then the most impressive thing probably is the goaltending. Solovyov posted a 4-0 record, 1 shutout, a .972 save percentage, and a .75 goals against average. Now, I am scared that he's all of a sudden going to crap the bed and these numbers are going to come way back down. So my question to you is, do we start Solovyov in round 2, even though he was technically the better goalie? Or do we go to Nicholas, who was trash in game 1, lost in overtime, but could maybe make us kind of even out a little bit? Because if we're playing this good after round 1, we might honestly play terribly in round 2. So we might want to make a small adjustment, give Nicholas at least game 1, and see how he plays in it, and then maybe get Solovyov back in. But right now, Solovyov has been absolutely awesome. I love to see that. 37 years old, but playing like he did probably when he was way younger than that. Like, that's an absolutely crazy start to your playoff career, or not playoff career, playoff year at the age of 37. Like I said, he's always been a good playoff goaltender, but we just never found ways to win cups with him. So he's off to a really good start. I guess his worst playoffs was that 812 save percentage year, but technically our team wasn't probably scoring a lot that year or playing good defensively yet at that point. But holy moly, I really like Solovyov. Yeah, he's definitely, I'd say Solovyov is a borderline Hall of Famer in this series. Borderline for the channel, at least. All right, so there's our stats. Let's take a look at who we're facing in round number 2 and if we'll be able to beat them. We are going to be taking on the winner of Pittsburgh and Columbus. So we have played both those teams somewhat recently, I think, in the playoffs. So should be interesting. The Rangers have taken out the Panthers, which means Guerin might be returning soon. I actually didn't take a look at that to see if he is returning soon, because Guerin was injured late in the season. I'm not too sure if the Rangers are still doing far. Oh, he has a fractured jaw. He's literally going to be back for the second round. So if we end up getting to a conference finals against the Rangers, we might have to play against Guerin again, unfortunately. I thought he was going to be out for a long time, but I guess not. It's just a fractured jaw. All right, so the question is it going to be Columbus or Pittsburgh in round number 2? The answer to that will be Columbus. It just got confirmed. Let's see the confirmation here now, though. And there it is. It is the Blue Jackets again. We've played Columbus so many times in the playoffs that we know their roster almost off by heart at this point, unless they've lost guys. I guess Woodworth retired recently, so maybe not, but we've played the Blue Jackets like at least 5 or 6 times in the playoffs. They finished 44, 28, and 10 this season, which is not as good as they normally do. So far in the playoffs, you can see a little bit of a comparison. They're actually third in goals for per game in the playoffs. They're scoring 4 goals a game, but they're allowing 4 goals a game. So their defensive play hasn't been great. Ours has been absolutely fantastic. Their power play has been solid. Their penalty kill has been pretty atrocious. So they've been very bad defensively. Meanwhile, we found our defensive game, so that's why I said maybe we put Nicholas in net, because I think if we play Solovyov, he might honestly get destroyed randomly, and they might continue to score goals, and they might give up goals, or they might not give up as much goals as they were in that first round. So I'm a little bit scared about the Blue Jackets in that sense, but let's take a look at how they did during the regular season a bit more, since we know their playoff stats. They were the 3rd best team in the Metro. They only finished 6 points back of us, technically, so it's not that far off. But they did score more goals than us during the regular season. During the playoffs, that's the same type of boat, so kind of realistic, I guess. And in goals against per game, we were the better defensive team, which makes sense still. Power play percentage, we were much better, and penalty kill percentage, we were actually better. So in general, it should be pretty similar in the playoffs based on that. They were 6-0-4 going into the playoffs, so they did not lose a single regulation game en route to making the postseason. That's interesting. All right, well, let's take a look at, I guess, what they're looking like. Then we'll take a look at their stats from the regular season, like their player stats, and see who was leading them in points and all that. But we've played them so many times that I'm assuming that they look pretty similar. Let's see. Yeah, first line, Jyrki Hakkarainen, Jackson Jacobson, and Kimmo Kuka. Was Kimmo Kuka there last time we played them? I don't remember. I guess he was, but he had 73 points this year, so shout out to Kimmo Kuka. Second line, Jose Nevins, Eric Lyon, and Ahmad Lockhart. Third line has Pierce Sharp, John Greening still there, and Tucker Cummins. And a fourth line of Pascal Moreau, Zane Vallette, and Colby O'Neill, who's a 71 overall, but has potential. Interesting. So that's a pretty mid-4 group, but it's got good depth. Like down the middle, they're pretty solid, I would say, the most part. Right wing side and left wing side, maybe a bit on the weaker end side of things, but they're still pretty good offensively. From a defensive standpoint, that's not the best defensive core, though. I can kind of see why they give up 4 goals a game. Petri Altonen, Cameron Rudder, our former defenseman, still a Blue Jacket. He's been with Columbus and their AHL team the last number of years. 17 points for him this season. That's actually pretty impressive. And a plus 43 for an enforcer defenseman. I don't think I've ever seen an enforcer defenseman similar like that. Aside from that, they have UC Engren, Malik Arneson, something like that. Dominic Johnson, Miles Conklin. It's definitely an old defensive core. Yeah, they're all almost in their 30s except for Rudders, so that's not a great defensive core. And goaltending, they do have still Moore, who is pretty solid. They did lose Chimera, I think it was, in the offseason. I think he's in Anaheim now. And then you have Ladislav Zhurdev, who I recognize and I don't remember why. Did we? Oh, we played against him in New Jersey. Yeah, that's probably it. Because I think we played, New Jersey in the playoffs when they had him. So that's probably why we recognize him. Yeah, he played one playoff game for them a few years ago as well, but I think that's probably why I know him. Aside from that, scratches, they have Bear Turner and Declan Burrows. All right. So yeah, this team is interesting. They're definitely not super strong, but they could be identified as a cheese team. Their offensive core, I'd say, is solid, but that defense, it's not the best. But it could honestly simulate good because they have a good goaltender, so I am a little bit scared that we could get cheesed, and I don't really know why. I really don't. Let's take a look at their stats, though, from the regular season and also the playoffs, their player stats, just to see who's been leading the way and who we need to watch out for the most, because there could be some underdog on that team. So Jacobson had 90 points this year, damn. Lyon had 89, Hakkarainen had 86. Damn, they had some really good point producers on this team, so... Because technically, everybody, I guess these top three guys on our team had more points than our highest scorer, which was Crane. And Hakkarainen was a 46 goal scorer, so... yeah, they do get offense. They do get offense, but they also do have some guys with some bad plus-minuses from the season, too. Rudder, though, being the best plus-minus is pretty impressive. Shout out to Cameron Rudder. He didn't become much for us, and he's been a good Blue Jacket, it seems like, now. But you can see, I guess it's like their bottom six and stuff like that gets kind of lit up a little bit based on plus-minus. And then from our goaltending standpoint, on defensive standpoint, Moore was actually not that good during the regular season. He's got a 3.3 goals against average. Zhurdev was actually pretty solid, though. That's interesting. It's kind of cool seeing a Columbus team with a Zhurdev again. Just think of Nikolai Zhurdev. So aside from that, let's take a look at stats in the playoffs, see who's been doing what for them. Because if they're scoring 4 goals a game, they definitely have some really good point production so far. And that is the case that lowly Kimo Kuka's got 8 points and 6 goals in 6 games. So we got to watch out for Kimo Kuka, the low lead sniper. Nevins is over point per game. Same with Greening as well, Cummins and Jacobson. Greening being a third-line center, being over point per game, that's pretty impressive. He was on the block at the trade deadline, but we didn't look into him. Also, it's kind of too expensive, I think it was. Hakkarainen is also still point per game, too. They definitely have good depth scoring, but they also, since they're giving up so many goals, their bottom 6 has been absolutely lit up. Morrow, O'Neill, and Villette, that's their 4th line, I think, has absolutely been abysmal defensively, so maybe we could take advantage of that. And then from a defensive standpoint, they're not getting a ton of offense from the back end, but Altonen's the best offensive guy. Johnson has 10 penalty minutes in 6 games, damn. And Arneson has 15. Meanwhile, the Enforcer and Rudder has nothing for penalty minutes. Okay. Goaltending-wise, Moore's got an 880. Yeah, so should be an interesting second round. I definitely think we are the better team, but obviously we need to stop their high-flying offense, and we need to continue scoring goals on them like whoever they played in the first round, which was, I think, Pittsburgh, I said. So yeah, Pittsburgh scored a lot of goals on them. We should be able to score a lot of goals on them if we continue to play like we did the last 3 games as well. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of New York Islanders Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the second round of the playoffs against the Columbus Blue Jackets as we look to beat them once again and find ourselves in the conference finals against either the New York Rangers or the Montreal Canadiens. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.